Welcome back to Senior Health Academy. I'm David, and as always, I'm joined by someone many of you now consider a guiding voice in your journey toward better aging, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. Doctor, it's always an honor to sit with you. Your wisdom has changed the way thousands of our listeners think about health, healing, and growing older with strength instead of fear.
Thank you, David. It's a joy to be here with you and with everyone listening. Aging is not a decline, it's a responsibility. And when we understand the body with kindness and clarity, we reclaim a power many people think they've lost.
Beautifully said, Doctor. And today's topic, I think it might surprise a lot of people. Because, Doctor, you told me something off-air that startled me. You said, most seniors forget one simple thing before sleep, and it accelerates memory loss. And when you said that, I thought, how many people are going to bed tonight unknowingly harming their brain?
More than we imagine, David. Nighttime is the brain's repair window, its cleaning time, its opportunity to restore clarity, memory, and vitality. But many people enter sleep unprepared. Their mind is exhausted, stressed, undernourished, and the brain begins the night already struggling.
And that's what we're exploring today, because our listeners, the men and women in their 60s, 70s, 80s, they deserve to know how to prepare their brain for the night in a way that protects their memory. Doctor, you told me once, the brain never sleeps. Even when you close your eyes, it is working to protect you. And ever since you said that, I've been looking at nighttime completely differently.
It's true, David. The brain does not rest. It reorganizes, it cleans, it stores memories, it heals inflammation. And when we forget a certain ritual before bed, a simple act, yet deeply important, the brain enters the night weak, unprepared, and vulnerable.
And today, we're revealing exactly what that ritual is and why it matters. So, to everyone listening, if your memory feels foggy at night, if you forget simple things after sunset, if your brain feels heavier, slower, or more tired in the evenings, stay with us. This conversation may change everything. Doctor, before we get into the ritual itself, I want to step back for a moment. You've said something today, and in many of our conversations, that completely changes how we think about nighttime. You said, the brain never truly sleeps. Most people imagine sleep as this long, shutdown period, but you're saying it's the opposite?
Yes, David. Sleep is not a pause, it is an acceleration. When the body lies still, the brain begins its most important work. It sorts your memories, cleans your tissues, drains waste, repairs inflammation, balances hormones, and resets emotional tensions from the day. In fact, the brain is often more active during sleep than while awake.
That's incredible. And honestly, I think most of our listeners never hear this from their doctors. Many seniors think forgetfulness at night is just being tired. But you're suggesting something deeper is happening, something biological.
Exactly. At night, the brain relies on a special cleansing system called the glymphatic system. You can think of it as the brain's washing machine. During the day, toxins build up. Stress hormones, inflammation, waste proteins, even emotional residue from conversations and worries. At night, the brain opens channels that flush all of that away. But here's the key, David. This system only works when the brain has enough fuel, calm, and balance to activate it.
And that's where so many people unknowingly struggle, right? They go to bed overwhelmed, hungry, or overstimulated, drained or tense. And the brain enters the night unprepared.
Yes, when the brain begins the night in a depleted state, no matter how long you sleep, it cannot clean properly. And when it cannot clean, the next day arrives with fog, forgetfulness, irritability, and a heavy sense of mental fatigue.
And I imagine this is especially important for people in their 60s and 70s, because aging naturally slows these systems down.
Exactly. With age, the glymphatic system becomes less aggressive. The brain needs more support, not less. And yet, many seniors unknowingly deprive their brain of what it needs right before bed. The right nourishment, the right state of mind, and a calm transition that tells the brain, you may begin your repair now.
That phrase, begin your repair, that's powerful, because it means healing is not passive. It has to be initiated.
Yes, David, and that's why the forgotten ritual we'll discuss later is so important. It provides the brain with the gentle push it needs, the signal that the day has ended, and the resources required to restore memory, clarity, and emotional balance.
So, before we reveal the ritual, I want to make sure people understand this. Your brain does not lose memory because it's old. It loses memory because it is overloaded and underprepared. And nighttime is the one window where that can be reversed.
Beautifully stated, David. If listeners understand this, half the battle is already won.
Doctor, what you just explained, it makes me think of something you once told me. Most seniors don't lose memory because of aging. They lose memory because the brain ends the day empty. I've never forgotten that. Can you help our listeners understand what you meant?
Of course, David. Let me say it plainly. The brain is the most energy-hungry organ in the entire body. Even though it makes up only about 2% of our weight, it uses nearly 20% of everything: nutrients, oxygen, glucose, minerals. During the day, the brain burns through these resources to help you think, talk, solve problems, remember names, make decisions, and handle emotions. But by nighttime, most people have not given the brain anything back.
Almost like running a car non-stop and never refilling the tank?
Exactly. And here is what most seniors don't realize. If the brain enters sleep undernourished, it cannot heal, it cannot repair, and it cannot protect memory. This is what I call nighttime brain starvation.
Doctor, that phrase is going to stick with people. What does nighttime brain starvation actually look like?
It looks like this. You go to bed feeling foggy. You wake up tired even after 7 or 8 hours. You feel forgetful at night. Your mind wanders. You lose track of conversations. You can't recall simple details you knew earlier in the day. Your emotions feel heavier after sunset. These are not signs of age. They are signs of a brain running on fumes.
And I imagine this becomes even more serious after 60.
Yes, after 60, the brain's ability to store nutrients becomes weaker. This means the brain relies on what you give it before sleep. And here is something many people don't know. The brain performs its memory repair processes at night only if it has enough nutrients. If it doesn't, the brain will prioritize survival, not memory. So instead of repairing memory pathways, it uses its limited resources just to keep the lights on.
That explains why so many seniors tell me, I'm fine during the morning, but I crumble mentally at night. They're not declining, they're depleted.
Beautifully said. Depletion mimics dementia, but it's completely reversible.
Doctor, could you share an example? Someone who experienced this?
Of course. I remember a patient, a lovely woman in her 70s named Emiko. She would spend her evenings reading, doing crosswords or talking with her daughter. But as soon as the sun went down, she described her brain as slipping away. She told me, "Doctor, I lose words at night. I forget things I knew in the morning. I feel like my brain shuts off." When I looked at her daily habits, I found the problem instantly. She ate her last meal very early, rushed through dinner, and then went to bed with almost nothing in her system. Her brain was entering sleep starving. Of course it couldn't repair itself. We made one simple change, one we'll reveal later, and within weeks, her nighttime fog lifted. Her memory returned. Her evenings became her most peaceful hours instead of her most frightening.
It's amazing how such a small change can unlock such a huge improvement. And I want to make something very clear for our listeners. This episode isn't about telling people they're doing things wrong. It's about showing them that a lifetime of habits can be adjusted gently, lovingly, and the brain responds almost immediately.
Yes, David, and that is the heart of this lesson. The brain is resilient. It wants to heal. It simply needs the proper support before you close your eyes at night.
Doctor, something I've always admired about your approach is the mix of science and tradition. You once told me that in Japan, nighttime is considered a sacred window, not just for sleep, but for preparing the mind, the heart, and the body. Can you explain how this cultural wisdom ties into brain health?
Yes, David. In Japan, especially in the older generations, there is a deep understanding that the final hours of the day influence the quality of the next. People don't rush into sleep. There is a slowing, a settling, a deliberate transition. Meals are lighter. Tea is warm and calming. Conversations become softer. Lights are dimmed. This isn't an accident. It is a design. A way of signaling to the brain, your work will soon begin. Prepare yourself.
That's beautiful, and so different from what many people experience today: TV, phones, bright screens, heavy meals, late-night snacks.
Yes, these modern habits confuse the brain. Instead of entering the night calm and nourished, many people enter it overstimulated and underfed. But the traditional Japanese rhythm does the opposite. It gently guides the brain into the repair state.
I'd love for you to explain something you told me once. It really stuck with me. You said, the brain needs a certain kind of nourishment before sleep, not to fill the stomach, but to prepare the mind. What does that mean?
It means this. The brain is not asking for a full meal before bed. That would burden digestion. Instead, the brain needs targeted nourishment. Small, light, intentional. Just enough to stabilize blood sugar. Just enough to calm stress hormones. Just enough to give the glymphatic system the fuel it requires to clean and repair. In Japan, elders often have a small warm drink before bed. Not alcohol, not sugar. Something simple. Warm barley tea, a spoon of honey in hot water, a small serving of miso broth, or even a handful of nuts. These are not snacks. They are signals. Signals that tell the brain, you are safe, you are supported. You may begin repairing soon.
That is incredibly intentional. In the West, we often view food as either a meal or a diet rule, but rarely as a message to the brain. And for seniors, this kind of gentle nourishment could be the difference between waking up energized or waking up foggy.
Exactly. After 60, the body's blood sugar becomes less stable. This means the brain is more vulnerable to nighttime dips. And these dips can cause nighttime confusion, poor memory formation, disrupted sleep, and morning fatigue. A small, thoughtful, pre-sleep nourishment, the kind we're building toward, stabilizes the brain and gives it the resources it needs for healing.
It almost sounds like a ceremony, not a rigid routine, but a mindful moment.
A beautiful way to describe it, David. A ceremony of care, a message to the self. Today is ending. I honor my mind by preparing it for rest. And when seniors adopt this mindset, something extraordinary happens. Nighttime stops being a source of worry or decline and becomes a sanctuary of restoration.
Doctor, as you describe this Japanese approach to slowing down, nourishing the brain, preparing it gently, I can almost imagine our listeners nodding along. Many of them tell me they want evenings to feel peaceful, but instead, they end the day tense, rushed, or mentally scattered. How does movement and mindfulness fit into this nighttime transformation?
This is a crucial point, David. People often think of the brain and body as separate, but they are deeply, beautifully connected. If the body is tense, the brain cannot relax. If the breath is shallow, the brain receives less oxygen. If the heart is stressed, the brain registers danger. Memory is not just a mental process, it is a physical one.
So even a small amount of tension held in the muscles shows up in the mind?
Exactly, especially after 60. The nervous system becomes more sensitive to stress signals and the brain reacts quickly. This is why so many seniors feel mentally foggy in the evening. Their body has carried tension all day long. But here is the good news. The body doesn't need intense exercise to release tension. It simply needs gentle movement, the kind that tells the nervous system, the danger has passed. You can rest now.
What kind of movement are we talking about?
Small, simple actions. Slow stretching of the shoulders, releasing the neck, rolling the ankles, opening the chest, walking for 2 or 3 minutes, gentle breathing. These movements aren't exercise, they're signals. Signals that lower stress hormones, calm the vagus nerve, and help the brain shift into its nighttime repair mode.
I imagine many listeners may be surprised to hear that something as simple as rolling their shoulders or relaxing their jaw at night can influence memory.
Yes, but it is true. When muscles relax, blood flows more easily, and when blood flows freely, oxygen reaches the brain. When oxygen reaches the brain, the glymphatic system activates. This is the pathway through which the brain removes waste, the pathway that protects memory. So a small movement becomes a doorway to mental clarity.
And what about mindfulness? I know you have a very gentle way of approaching it. Not as a spiritual practice, but as a biological one.
Beautifully said, David. Mindfulness is not about clearing the mind. It is about slowing the mind. Just enough to tell the brain, you are not chasing anything anymore. The day is done. This can be achieved through a quiet minute with your eyes closed, listening to your breath, appreciating a simple moment, sitting still without a screen, reflecting on one thing that went well in the day. These small acts lower cortisol, increase serotonin, and create a bridge into stable restorative sleep.
I think this is going to resonate deeply. Many seniors struggle with a racing mind at night. Worries, regrets, replaying old conversations, thinking about the next day.
Yes, and this mental noise blocks memory repair. The brain cannot clean when it is busy worrying. Mindfulness, even for 1 or 2 minutes, lowers that noise and opens the door for the brain's nighttime work.
So what you're describing is a holistic connection. Release the body, slow the mind, nourish the brain, and prepare the whole system for restorative sleep.
Exactly. Nighttime should not be chaotic. It should be a gentle descent, like a boat drifting toward calm waters. And when we guide the body and mind with kindness, the brain responds with clarity, memory, and emotional balance.
Doctor, something you've said many times, both on and off the microphone, is that emotional health is deeply tied to memory health. And there's one thing you emphasize more than almost anything else at night: gratitude. Why gratitude, Doctor? Why does such a simple act have such a profound effect on the brain before sleep?
Ah, David, gratitude is one of the most powerful medicines we have, especially as we grow older, and it is free. It is accessible to every soul, no matter their health, their history, or their circumstances. Let me explain it simply. The brain is always listening. It listens to our fears, our doubts, our frustrations, but it also listens to our appreciation. And the last thing the brain hears before sleep, that is what it carries into the night.
So the emotional tone we fall asleep with becomes the emotional program the brain uses during sleep.
Exactly. When we fall asleep worried, angry, or lonely, the brain enters sleep in a defensive state. Stress hormones rise, memory centers become less active, repair becomes shallow, sleep becomes fragmented. But when we fall asleep grateful, even for something small, even for something imperfect, the brain softens, stress hormones decrease, and the memory centers, especially the hippocampus, open. It is like handing the brain a warm blanket and saying, "Rest now, you are safe."
That is so simple, and yet it's deeply moving. But I can imagine some listeners asking, What if my life is difficult? What if I don't have much to be grateful for? How would you answer that?
I would tell them a story. Many years ago, I visited an elderly man in his 90s. He had lost much in life, his wife, his brother, his friends. He lived alone, with simple meals and simple routines. One evening, he told me, "Doctor, every night before sleep, I give thanks for the roof over my head, and when I have no roof, I will give thanks for the sky." He taught me that gratitude is not about perfection. It is about perspective. It is not about having everything. It is about seeing what remains. Gratitude does not deny pain. It simply gives the brain a place to rest that is bigger than the pain.
That is unbelievably profound. So what you're saying is that gratitude isn't just an emotional practice, it's a biological one. It shifts the chemistry of the brain.
Yes, David. Gratitude increases serotonin. It reduces cortisol. It calms the limbic system, the emotional alarm center. It strengthens the hippocampus, the memory center. It prepares the brain for repair, for clarity, for balance. Even 10 seconds of gratitude can change the direction of your night.
Doctor, if you could tell our listeners to choose one grateful thought before sleep, one thing to anchor the mind, what would you suggest?
I would say this: choose something you can feel, not just think. It could be the warmth of your bed, the voice of someone you love, the breath that still rises in your chest, the fact that you lived another day. These are the things that remind the brain, life continues. I am still part of it.
You know, as you speak, I can almost feel the room getting quieter. There's something healing just in hearing this. And I imagine many of our listeners are going to try this tonight. A small moment of gratitude before sleep.
I hope they do, because gratitude is more than a habit. It is a doorway that leads the brain from stress into restoration. And that transition, David, is the key to protecting memory as we age.
Doctor, we've talked about nourishment, movement, mindfulness, and gratitude, all leading us gently toward this moment. Our listeners have been waiting for the answer since the beginning. What is the forgotten nighttime ritual that protects the brain, prevents memory decline, and helps seniors wake up clearer and more energized?
Yes, David, and I want to make something very clear before I reveal it. This ritual is not complicated. It does not require money, technology, or special equipment, but it does require intention, a willingness to honor the brain before closing your eyes. The forgotten ritual is this: a small, steady dose of nighttime nourishment combined with a moment of stillness taken 60 to 90 minutes before sleep.
Doctor, let's break that down, because this sounds simple, but I know there's a deep science behind it.
There is. Let me start with the nourishment, the physical part of the ritual. After 60, the brain becomes highly sensitive to drops in blood sugar during the night. These dips create sudden awakenings, confusion, shallow sleep, memory disruption, morning fog, nighttime anxiety. A small amount of nourishment before bed stabilizes the brain and prevents those dips. This nourishment should be light, non-sugary, protein-balanced, gentle on digestion.
So, not a big meal, not sugar, not caffeine.
Correct. The goal is not to feed the stomach, but to feed the brain. Here are the kinds of nourishment that work beautifully 60 to 90 minutes before bed. A small handful of nuts, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter or almond butter, a warm cup of barley tea, a slice of whole grain toast with a thin layer of honey, a small bowl of warm miso broth, a few slices of banana with chia seeds, a small bowl of oatmeal, Greek yogurt plain with cinnamon, just enough to stabilize the brain, not enough to burden digestion.
That sounds comforting, almost ceremonial, like something you look forward to instead of something you have to do.
Yes, David, and after the nourishment comes the second part of the ritual, the moment of stillness, the stillness. This is not meditation, it is simply a pause. Sit in a quiet room, no phone, no screens, no bright lights, just 3 to 5 minutes of breathing or reflection. This stillness allows the brain to shift from beta waves, thinking, into alpha waves, slowing. That shift is essential for memory restoration.
Almost like gently lowering the volume inside your mind.
Exactly. When you combine these two steps, a small stabilizing nourishment and a moment of stillness, the brain receives the perfect signal. The day has ended. You may begin your repair. This is what most seniors forget. They drop into bed with no transition, and the brain enters the night confused and under-supported.
So the perfect pre-sleep routine for seniors is actually very simple. Light nourishment, stillness, gratitude.
Beautifully summarized. Do these consistently, and memory improves, sleep deepens, nighttime anxiety decreases, morning clarity returns. When we care for the brain before sleep, the brain cares for us during sleep.
Doctor, as we come to the end of today's episode, I want to pause and say something to our listeners. Many of you write to us saying you feel like your mind isn't the same as it once was, that your memory feels slippery, that your evenings feel foggy or unsettled. And some of you fear that this decline is the beginning of something permanent. But today's conversation offers a different truth, a hopeful truth.
Yes, David, because memory does not fade simply because of age. Memory fades when the brain is exhausted, undernourished, or overstimulated. These are conditions we can change, not fate we must accept.
And what I love about what you taught today is this. The solution isn't complicated. It doesn't require pills or expensive treatments. It requires a moment of care, a pause, a ritual of respect for the brain that has protected us our entire lives.
Exactly, David. The brain has carried every memory, every experience, every joy and sorrow. It deserves a gentle ending to each day, a soft landing, a calming transition, a small nourishment, a moment of appreciation. When we honor the brain before sleep, we are not just protecting memory, we are honoring the life we have lived.
Doctor, that is so beautifully said. And I want to ask our listeners something, a question we'd love to hear your answers to. What part of your nighttime routine do you struggle with the most? And what small change are you willing to try tonight? Tell us in the comments. Your words may help someone else who feels alone in their struggle.
Yes, please share. We learn from one another, and your story could inspire another person to try this ritual, to nourish their brain, to find stillness, to feel grateful, and to sleep with a softer heart.
Doctor, before we end, can you leave our listeners with one final thought?
Of course, to everyone listening, I want to say this. When you prepare your brain for sleep, you are preparing yourself for a better tomorrow. A small act of nourishment, a moment of stillness, a breath of gratitude. These are not trivial things. They are bridges between who you were today and who you can become tomorrow. Your brain is not fading, it is waiting for the right support, waiting for the right rhythm, waiting for you to remember yourself.
Thank you, Doctor. And to everyone here at Senior Health Academy, if today's conversation gave you comfort, clarity, or hope, give this video a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more gentle, science-backed guidance from Dr. Hinohara. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your brain, and sleep with kindness tonight.